Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Governor's Giant Vision information session. I would like to thank all of our speakers, Governor's Giant Vision past participants, DRACO team members, and everyone in our audience for joining us virtually for this event. My name is Eric Santers, one of the co-founders of Dakota Research and Consulting Organization, or DRACO. DRACO is a nonprofit corporation that aims to support innovation and entrepreneurship across South Dakota, and soon we'll be expanding to other areas of the Midwest. This event is part of our Catalyst initiative, a project that aims to increase participation in student-based engineering, design, and business competitions. Our goal is to support the success of innovative ideas by creating a statewide network where student entrepreneurs can share their ideas, discuss tips and best practices, and recruit team members with skills that benefit their team. Our interactive map tool can be found on our website at draco.bio under the Catalyst tab. We support student involvement in many state and national competitions, and one of the more prestigious competitions is the South Dakota Governor's Giant Vision competition. Today, we will hear from two members of the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the organization that hosts the competition each year, and one member of the Governor's Giant Vision judges panel. First on our panel today, we have David Owen, the president of the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a private business organization that represents employers and manufacturers. He serves as the Chamber's policy analyst and lobbies full-time during the state legislative session. Owen is the author of Capitalism, the Chamber's legislative update, and numerous white papers on issues such as property taxes and workers' compensation. He is a longtime member of the South Dakota Unemployment Reemployment Insurance Advisory Board, and Mr. Owen has wide-ranging political experiences, including many successful state ballot measure campaigns. His chamber work began in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and included Pittsburgh, Kansas, followed by Missoula, Montana, and 6 years as the president of the Montana State Chamber, before starting his current position back here in South Dakota. Next on our panel, we have Mary Ann Boyd, who has been the Vice President of Program Services for the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce and Industry since 1999. Prior to that time, she served as the Executive Director of the Yankton Area Chamber of Commerce for 10 years and was with the organization for 15 years altogether. Her role with the South Dakota Chamber involves meeting and planning, developing programs and publications, advertising, sales, membership communication, membership development, and marketing and administrative work for small nonprofit organizations that partner with the Chamber. And finally, on our panel, we have Dr. Mel Ustad, the director of South Dakota EPSCoR, where he coordinates EPSCoR activities and serves as the project director of the National Science Foundation EPSCoR Research Infrastructure Improvement Track 1 project. This 5-year, $24 million project involves the 6 regental institutions, 3 tribal colleges, and 2 private colleges across South Dakota. Dr. Usted served as the Director of Commercialization in the Governor's Office of Economic Development for both Governor Rounds and Governor Dugard. Dr. Usted has extensive experience leading collaborative, interdisciplinary public and private research and economic development projects. He previously served as acting and interim vice president of research at the University of South Dakota, director of South Dakota SBIR Center, and worked for Senator Larry Pressler in Washington, D.C. He has also served or is currently serving on the board of directors of numerous national and state technology entrepreneurship organizations. Dr. Usted has been an active researcher throughout his career, serving as principal investigator on numerous research and outreach projects supported by various federal agencies and private foundations. So as you can see, we have a great panel of advisors that are here to talk about the Governor's Giant Vision competition. And before I turn it over to our first panel of speakers, I would like to encourage our audience members to ask questions throughout the hour. This event is aimed at providing valuable insight to those eager to participate in the competition, to serve as mentors for participants of the competition, and generally anyone interested in supporting students, businesses, or entrepreneurs in South Dakota. So with that, I will turn it over to David to begin our discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhurst, and welcome. Congratulations on your interest in entrepreneurship, being in various competitions. The South Dakota Chamber is enormously proud of the history of the Giant Vision competition. I'm gonna just give a few sentences so you can get used to the difference between the picture we sent and the face you see addressing you. I'm one of the few people that's proud to be a lobbyist and work with public officials providing information as they make decisions. Most recently, we led the campaign to oppose recreational marijuana. If you've been following the news, you know that we came in second, which is also known as losing. And so South Dakota will now go through that transition for both medical and recreational marijuana, which may come in handy as you address the stresses of being an entrepreneur. The Giant Vision competition started 18 years ago or so at a planning session of the board of directors of the South Dakota Chamber right after I had returned from Montana back to South Dakota. I grew up in Rapid City. And one of the things the board decided to do was we ought to be involved in economic development, which made me want to throw up because I kept looking at all these cities that have economic development directors, and I thought, where the heck do we fit in without duplicating what they're doing and ticking them off? So we started asking around, and at that time, the idea of business plan competitions or entrepreneurial competitions was just getting started in other places. We really didn't have any experience with that in South Dakota. And so with the help of Christine Hamilton specifically, and Brad Wheeler from up in the Lemon area, Wheeler Manufacturing, we settled in on this idea of creating a competition, and it was a little amorphous for either business plans or actual businesses where we could help entrepreneurs get started. Brad Wheeler approached Governor Rounds, shared the idea. Governor Rounds immediately said he'd put in $20,000 to help with prize money, and then said we had to match it. Well, that could be viewed as a setback. Brad made about 5 phone calls, and we had our match. We made about 10 other phone calls, and we had raised enough money to cover the cost of the event. I remember during that first competition, we had a wide variety, and it was just businesses with business plans and some new businesses that started out. We had some high tech, and the person that won either second or third was a daycare center. And this is one of my first cautions to us that we've had to be mindful of, and to you thinking about entering. We've had to kind of through the years define the kind of businesses we're trying to encourage. Our goal is to expand business in South Dakota, expand the gross state product of South Dakota, create jobs for South Dakotans, but to help people with entrepreneurial ideas. And so we've seen very practical, non-technical, and we've seen, especially recently, the technical aspects of engineering, of very sophisticated kind of plans have done fairly well. But I learned very early when the daycare center won, I had to ask myself, what is it to be an entrepreneur? Well, a person that buys into a franchise, opens a shoe store, is as much as an entrepreneur as the people that have helped, to use an example, dissipate heat by developing fancy materials and using things in a new way. So we went to build this competition. We reached out to bankers, venture capitalists. We wanted people to come to the finalists to be able to come in, meet other entrepreneurs, meet bankers, be challenged. We wanted the experience to be helpful to people that didn't win. We offer a first prize of $20,000, not the Mega Million jackpot, but a fairly substantial prize that helps. But we knew if it was just the 20,000, that wasn't going to be enough. And so the competition has been designed, and Mary Ann will talk about this in more detail. We have a time when all the judges meet the competitors. We use judges that have successful business experience, or venture capitalists themselves, financial people, and people out of universities that have helped businesses and have a strong track record of doing that. We've had people practice their elevator pitches. We've recorded those. The ability to be able to say something intelligent when Bill Gates gets on the elevator with you or somebody else is invaluable. This is the world I live in with campaigns and lobbying. If you can't get your message down to something you can say in about 30 seconds, at least as a good start, that's an essential skill. So we gave people a chance to start with that. And then there's the presentation to the judges. Mary Ann will talk about who all, some of the people we've had as judges. It's the same criteria that I just went through. And in there, you get about 8 minutes to make your pitch and answer some questions. And this is about your financials, your plans. I will tell you, one of the things they always evaluate is the ease of other people entering your market. And so it's a real dynamic, thorough, kind of 360 look at what you're thinking, where you are along in that process. I think we've succeeded through the years in people that haven't won any substantial prize still benefiting from their entry into Giant Vision. That was the purpose, and I think we've done fairly well. So I'll hand it over to Mary Ann, who runs this program, has run it for 17, 18 years. I should mention, after a couple of years, we created the student division to reach out to really young entrepreneurs. And that's more of a plan-based and less emphasis on what are your sales and what, have you succeeded? But we've had a good working relationship with the universities and trying to further some of the business ideas that students are cooking along as they go to school. I'll answer any questions, but the real expertise here is Mary Ann, and I'll hand it to her.
Thank you, David. I can hold up for a moment in case there are questions. Seeing no hands raised or no chat boxes coming up, I'll go ahead and start. So as David stated, I'm here to talk about the process of applying for Giant Vision. I'll outline a few details and then provide more in-depth information. And also, if you have questions along the way, let me know. Everything is centered around the website, SouthDakotaGiantVision.com. And the site explains in great detail what's required to apply, provides supportive information or examples designed to help guide prospective competitors. The website itself is divided into two components, one side for the students and another for our open or business category. Requirements for both are similar, but it's my opinion that the judging process is more rigorous for the business competitors. I've kind of focused my comments today on the student side, and will note that all full-time students, those carrying at least 12 credit hours per semester, may apply. Student competition is open to all South Dakota college, university, or technical students, as well as high school students. And we've had a few that have been successful. If you're considering the business side, you must be a resident of the state of South Dakota and have an intent of developing your business in South Dakota. If you happen to be one of the rare individuals who already have a business up and running, to qualify for either competition, you may not have been in business for more than 3 years as of the application deadline, and annual sales revenue may not exceed $500,000. So everyone has the option to apply in either the student or business competition, but applications will only be considered in one. And if you have applied before, you may apply only twice with the same idea. But if you haven't been successful with that and come up with a new idea, you are welcome to apply again. So what do you have to do to start this process? Briefly stated, applicants are required to submit a business plan totaling no more than 10 pages, completed financial template that is provided on the website, and the online application form that requires contact information, confirmation that you are, if appropriate, a full-time student, and that the ideas you're presenting are your own. All of this has to be submitted by the deadlines. Next year's deadlines for the business competition would be by midnight, Friday, February 12th, and for the students a week later on February 19th. So now I'll talk in a little more detail about the process of developing your business plan. Guidelines on the website suggest beginning with an executive summary, and that is often considered the most important step of your plan. In 1 or 2 pages, you should provide a compelling story about the opportunity that exists in the marketplace, why it's not presently being adequately served, your company's unique capabilities and product, and your competitive advantage. From there, you would develop a formal plan that would include a description of the business and management plan, basic business strategy, and a description of the industry. Then going on to provide a detailed description of the product or service and an overview of the market sector being targeted. It's important to be clear description and service. You never want to leave the judges guessing about what it is you want to do. Should include the novelty of the business, state what you see as your advantage in the market, identify the size of the market opportunity, the size of the impact to South Dakota, which ties into what David had said about jobs, creation of new jobs, and impact to GDP. You'll want to include competitor profiles, how you've identified them. Have you created barriers to entry for others? And lastly, your sales and marketing plan. Explain how you will take your product to market. Next, we suggest that you explain the management of your company. You might want to include an organizational chart and identify your management team and their skills, possibly, and if you have identified an estimated number of employees. Finance and accounting should be covered. You want to identify your financial needs, including the amount needed, sources, and startup needs, rather than or in addition to ongoing financial needs. Explain if you envision partnering with another company, and if so, does one exist in South Dakota? And include your plan to pay back investors in the bank. Lastly, there may be critical risks and assumptions that in your projections that you want to highlight. Maybe noting sources of information included in your plan, or any possible legal or regulatory risks or opportunities that should be addressed. I should back up and touch on the financials that I mentioned before. The template, which you will download from the website, includes a series of worksheets that are to be completed for years 1, 2, and 3 of your business. The key areas include opening balance sheet, salaries and wages, fixed operation expenses, projected sales forecast, and cash receipts and disbursements. Now, the expectation on the student side is that you complete all that is relevant to your business plan. However, fully finished financials are always encouraged. Once you have your business plan and financials nearly completed, you may want to revisit your executive summary and confirm that it still tells an accurate story about your business, making any revisions as necessary. When all of your documents are ready, you'll go back to the SouthDakotaGiantVision.com website to complete that online application form and upload your documents. At that time, if you have any issues, I make myself available to help up to the deadline of application. Are there any questions about the process so far? All right, I'll wrap things up here. In terms of assistance with the process, I'm available for questions about what's needed. In addition to classroom settings and educators for the students, we always encourage applicants to reach out to one of many statewide assistance organizations. There's a link to a list on the website under the title Resources, and the listing is titled Small Business Assistance Agency Directory. There are many sources for assistance, and most of them have worked with competitors before, making them a valuable resource for understanding what it takes to prepare a successful business plan. So applications, as I noted, for student are due February 12th. For the business side, I'm sorry, turn those around. Business applications due the 12th, students February 19th. There's a quick turnaround for getting all of the applicants to our first panel of judges. They have a couple of weeks to review them individually and do their scoring. Then that group meets within a few weeks to review, discuss, tally scores, and select the next group of qualifiers. I think maybe I'll stop there. We'll let Mel speak a little bit more or in depth about what is involved with the judging, and I can follow up with any other details or questions.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a couple of slides, if you wouldn't mind putting those up. Have And I'm going to talk more about the judging of the process and what we look for, kind of give you some hints and so forth. And if anybody has questions during the time, please type them in or whatever it is. First thing I want to emphasize is for people is the goal should be to start and grow a successful business. Their primary goal shouldn't be winning the competition. Winning a competition would be great and help the company or the entrepreneur, but does not winning or not even placing doesn't necessarily foresee success in the real business world. David talked about, I believe it was the first year we did this. We had a young entrepreneur named Eric McDonald that participated. I don't believe he even placed. But one of the things he did very well was later on here, I mean, down the goal of the plan is to obviously encourage entrepreneurship, but as a competitor is to get feedback and advice from the judges and other people who attend, network with potential partners, customers, investors, practice your pitch, and learn. But so Eric McDonald, who participated in this, didn't place. He did those things. He listened to the judges and actually changed his business model. Ended up changing it a couple of different times, and ultimately he started and grew a company called DocuTap, which has since been acquired. I think when it was acquired, they had about 450 employees in Sioux Falls. So I just use the example to show that winning doesn't guarantee you success in the marketplace. And also not winning doesn't mean you're not going to succeed in the marketplace, but use it as a learning experience and to help yourself and make your business successful. So let's go on to the next slide. So these are some keys, I guess I just put down as terms of from the judge's perspective, and this is really more focused on the written proposals here, which I think are important keys. Mary Ann and David talked about some of the things that we looked at, but obviously we want to. The name of the competition is the Giant Vision Business Plan Competition. So part of that requires, the ability to scale the business to some extent. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're looking for the next Amazon, but if you're just going to have a 2-person, company somewhere, it's probably not. You need to have a plan for how to scale that, both in terms of producing your product or your service, as well as your sales. Mary Ann, I think, talked about the regulatory requirements. There's very few businesses anymore that don't have some type of regulatory requirement that you have to go through. And David mentioned too that more and more we're seeing, I guess I would say they're technical or knowledge-based businesses that are often in heavily regulated spaces, medical, healthcare, environmental areas, and so forth. So it's important that you talk about what are your requirements that you will have to meet, and your plan to meet those things, and then also include a realistic timeline. I know every business, at least most every business I know, it's taken longer than they thought it was going to take to get things done or accomplish things and so forth. So to the extent you can, be realistic, and that's especially true if there's a regulatory component of your business that you have to have, because in most cases the judges are going to be able to say, oh, well, that's not really a realistic plan, or they're going to have to get through this process. And if you've just ignored it and not even mentioned it, it's going to be a check against you in terms of the evaluation. David mentioned the having impact on South Dakota. And there's a number of ways that can be done. The obvious way is, okay, I'm going to hire a lot of people to produce my product or provide my services or something, whatever that might be. But in some cases, there's other indirect ways that you might do that. So for example, in many cases, for a new innovation or a new product, it may be more efficient for you to contract manufacture that product. And ideally, if you can do that with a contract manufacturer in South Dakota, then your company may not be going to create 100 jobs, but you're going to hire some people, but also the manufacturer that you're contracting with or partnering with is going to be hiring and creating jobs and economic activities. So there's a number of different ways that you can make the case of the impact on the state of South Dakota. Another one of those areas is how you're going to impact a significant industry in South Dakota. So for example, I think you're going to hear later one of the competitors that did a good job of this. It had an agricultural product. Well, South Dakota is a heavily agricultural industry or state. So if you're able to benefit farmers or ranchers, that's an economic impact that you want to highlight in your plan. Another aspect that I probably can't emphasize enough is to try and demonstrate the customer interest. So obviously, if you can have sales, which are allowed as long as you don't have over, I think, $500,000 worth and so forth, that shows that somebody is willing to pay for your product or service, which is the best way to demonstrate customer interest. I would say that the next best way to do that is to interview or talk to potential customers. And that'll help you in a number of ways. One, if they say, yeah, I'd buy that, or I'm interested in that, then, that reinforces your idea. But the other part of your interviewing and your process of doing this, you may find out that that you need to change your approach or your business model or your product to better fit the customer's need or addresses their pain in their that you're trying to address. And really the only way you can do that is by talking to people and interviewing them and getting information on that. So to the extent you can do that, I would certainly encourage you to do that. While it's important to understand and talk about the market size, I'll be blunt. Don't put in there and say this is a $10 billion market and we're going to get 3% of the market, and say, okay, that's what you're going to do. Because, there's no specifics. There's nothing that demonstrates that any part of that market's actually interested in buying it and so forth. And then Marianne also talked about the competitors. Always keep in mind that there's both direct and indirect competitors. You have to think about that. There's nothing that you may invent that probably there isn't another way. It may take much longer or many challenges to address the problem or to create it, but in most cases, there's a way to solve the problem you're trying to solve. So just don't just say, oh well, I got a patent on this. It's a totally new process to do this, and there's no competition. Well, unfortunately, there is competition. So you need to identify that and to explain why you have an advantage over those competitors. So that's an important part of that. Marianne also talked about the financials. Especially for the student competition, the expectation isn't that they're as detailed as for the open competition, but make sure that they're realistic. So often I will see things that say, oh, I'm going to start this business and, I need $50,000 or some number that once you look at it, it's not really realistic. And they haven't included certain things or been realistic on those things. So be realistic. And another aspect is explain the business model and the revenue, how you're going to generate revenue. This is especially important for like IT companies, or I'm going to develop an app, or I'm going to do some kind of software. There's so many different ways you can generate revenue in that sector, but you need to explain how you're going to do that. So think through that and be prepared or explain how and why you've chose the model that you're going to use in your plan. So I don't know, I could take any questions on this, or on the next slide is really focused on more of the presentations. And maybe I'll just keep going, and then you can ask any of us questions at the end. So this is really, the judges, a group of judges, and they're typically different, in most cases, different judges that read the business plans and say, okay, these are the finalists that we want to invite into the competition and do the oral and presentations and so forth. Marianne didn't say this, but there's not necessarily a set number of finalists. We really kind of decide, okay, these are, 8 or 10 that we feel are, should be presenting because they have a real opportunity and so forth. So there's not a set number that will be in the finalists. So as David said, I think you get about 8 minutes to do the presentation and questions. And it's important, again, as David also said, is right up front, explain, okay, here's the problem or the opportunity that my business is going to address. Be very clear on what you're doing, what the problem is, and how you're going to do that. And that how could be both a technical side. Okay, I've got, I've got a patent, or we're going to do this chemical process and so forth to do this. Or it could be a business side. What's innovative about, back to Eric McDonald with his original plan was very straightforward, but then he changed his business model and came up with a very unique business model, which I think really allowed him to be successful. So it can be a business model that you're using, you really want to emphasize, or it can be a technical process. A warning here is, and I know, looking at some of the people on the call here, we have some PhDs and scientists and so forth, is the tendency may be to get into the science. Keep in mind, this isn't a scientific presentation. You need to provide enough science and technical details so that the judges understand and believe or think that you will be successful. So that's why you emphasize more on the data showing that your approach will work or is likely to work, rather than all of the steps that you're going through to do that and so forth. So don't get down into the real technical details, just enough to show that convince them that you've got the skills and the approach that will work. Again, talk about and document, if you can, that market and customer interest. Somehow show that people want this and are going to be willing to pay for it, and so forth. And again, I've talked about this before, is explain the business model. Many times somebody will, say, well, I'm going to make, we're going to make all this revenue and so forth, but they don't say, okay, here's exactly how we're going to do that. It's going to be a subscription service for a software service, or is it going to be a one-time sale? And like I said, there's lots of different ways to generate revenues in that. And so make sure you explain that, and then also describe your growth plan. Here's how we think we're going to grow, both producing the product. We're going to partner with these companies, or we're going to partner with somebody to manufacture it or to sell it and things like that, and explain how you're going to grow. And a good way to do that, especially in your presentations, are some easy to understand graphics of, here's a timeline. Will we think we're going to be able to meet these key milestones for the business to be successful? And again, don't get too far into the weeds with your presentation and so forth. And finally, be succinct so you can allow time for questions, because the judges that are in there, they're going to have read or reviewed your written proposal and listen to your presentation. So they're going to be, they're likely going to have some questions and even comments for you. So make sure you allow time for that. And I think with that, it looks like we have about 20 or 15 or 20 minutes. Hopefully, the three of us have generated some questions or comments, and maybe we can open it up.
Mel, before we go to before we go to questions, there's one element of this I've been thinking about while you and Mary Ann were talking. Starting about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, this event is held in conjunction with the Governor's Economic Development Conference. We've benefited greatly from that, because you have the economic developers from the cities, from the Regional Council of State Governments. You have financial people, folks that are really interested in economic development. So they have, and I don't know what it is, a couple hundred there. They schedule their breaks to be in the room. You'll see a lot of people. Not every one of them is an entrepreneur, venture capitalist, but you're going to talk to a lot of people that understand economic development, have gathered to talk about economic development. That's good practice for doing the presentation. You'll get good questions, deeper than the normal folks that are kind of, what's this? And so being co-located with that economic development conference has strengthened this competition. And that's the case that you'll be applying to next year.
Looks like Ryan Reichhouse has a question. Go ahead, Ryan.
That's a fantastic story about DocuTap. And I was just wondering, what are some of the other success stories from this Governor's Giant Vision? And what is I don't want to ask for a success rate, but how many companies have been spun out of this program?
Well,
Marianne?
yeah. I'm going to let Mel, I can pull up some of our records. To give you a hard and fast number, I'd need to do little quick calculation. I think we can, between Mel and I, we could provide you with a few examples.
Yeah. Another one of the, I guess I would say, major success stories of this competition is a company that came out of the School of Mines, VRC Metals, and they developed some of the cold spray applications to repair aircraft parts, and they've gone on to develop applications for lots of other things. They've won, I don't know how many small business innovation research awards. They now have a manufacturing and storage facility in Rapid City. Joseph Wright could give you more details on them and so forth. On the student competition, the student competition is actually open to anyone from high school to PhD students. I don't remember Marianne. I may remember the young lady's name who was a senior at some small high school, and she had developed what was called a calving app,
Yes.
which is for ranchers. And she came in, she won the competition, still has the business. And, she had sales of ranchers and farmers who were using her app to manage their calving operations. So, I mean, she doesn't have hundreds of employees like the other two I cited, but they are there. I'll go one last example, which again, Joseph Wright could add much more detail, but a company that won it recently, I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. Todd Menkenhouse's company, again, came out of the School of Mines and nanotechnology for filtrations. And just a couple months ago, they were acquired by I believe, the third largest private equity firm in the world to produce and use the target is really to put their technology into the pharmaceutical manufacturing world, but it has other applications as well. They didn't end up, I don't think they have 12 to 15 employees in Rapid City and Sioux Falls, but they're, with the backing of this large company, they'll have a much bigger presence in terms of what they're doing. So those are just a handful of examples off the top of my head. Some won, some didn't win the competition.
I'm going to add to that just a little bit, Mel. The year that the young lady from Orient, South Dakota won, she actually tied with Henry from ProVendor Technologies for first place. And you will all be hearing from Henry a little later in the program. So that was a good success story. Several years back, we did a fairly thorough review and survey of past competitors. And at that time, we were showing, of those who responded to the survey, we had a success ratio in the range of 10%. We had created upwards of, again, of those who responded, we identified roughly 650 jobs that had been created, and it was at an average cost of less than $1,000 per job. As the years go by, keeping track of past competitors, getting people to respond when we survey becomes more of a challenge. And that's especially true with college students. Once they're out of the system and all we've been given might be their university email address, it's very hard to stay in touch with them. We promote Facebook and LinkedIn to get people to kind of stay in the fold, if you will, but that becomes challenging. Did we at least give you basically decent response?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thanks.
This is Joseph Wright. That company that was acquired by KKR was Nanoparel.
Oh.
And probably one of the most successful student competitors so far has been Nick Hutchinson with Hutchinson Car Audio. They've been an incredibly successful company and have product in the market and are growing pretty rapidly here in Rapid.
There's also a couple of student competitors, I don't, again, 17, 18 years, I don't remember all the names, but one of them was, I think it was called Mag Wheels, and they're up in Volga, and they're manufacturing some specialized wheels for ATVs. They've done well. And then there's another company with Hessela that made some type of a
That one was
product for
Promax.
planters.
Yeah.
And I know they've done well, and they're still manufacturing and selling their products. So those are two student projects that have gone on to some success.
How important is IP protection or an MVP when you enter the competition?
Well, obviously, IP protection is important in terms of preventing competition or limiting competition and so forth. In terms of the proposals and so forth, you don't have to have a patent and so forth, but I'm some people, and I'm not a patent attorney by any means. Joseph is, he can respond to this a little bit, but if you're going to be successful, and like I said, I was an advocate of going and talking to potential customers. You can do that in ways without giving away your intellectual property or your secrets, and gain that information. And I believe, Mary Ann, I should know this, but all the judges sign a confidentiality agreement when they judge. But obviously it's a public presentation, so you just need to manage it appropriately. But
Question.
So to recap, what is actually involved in an application packet? So it's the business plan, which is 10 pages maximum, and the financial template. Are there any other amendments or other documents that applicants can attach that can strengthen the application, or is that not allowed?
It is allowed, but we caution you to keep that to a minimum, maybe 2 or 3 additional pages. Being mindful of the workload of our judges, it should be information that's very crucial or pertinent to the business plan.
So just to add on to that, one thing, for example, like I mentioned, if you were going to contract manufacture something or partner with somebody, it would be good to have some type of a letter or email verifying that you've talked to them and they're willing to do it, so forth, rather than just saying, oh, I'm gonna contract manufacture with ABC company and not have contacted them at all or anything like that. So things like that, but don't add a whole bunch of a dozen letters of, gee, this is a neat idea, from all your friends and family.
Looks like we have a question from Scott Wood. Go ahead, Scott.
Sure, thanks. So for the student competition, if you've got a PhD student who has worked closely with their faculty mentor to kind of come up with a business plan and things, you mentioned that the students need to show that their idea is their own. So would that be a situation that would need to go to the open competition, or could that be something that a student could carry forward if they were going to be the ones leading the charge on the business?
I'll take a shot at this, but then Mary Ann and David can correct me if I'm wrong. And we've had a number of like PhD students, and I think maybe you have one of them that's going to talk later here, that worked with their faculty advisor and things like that to develop the technology and so forth. So they don't necessarily, the student wouldn't necessarily have to be their intellectual property and so forth, but they would want to, have in the proposal or the plan show that they have access to that tech, the ability to execute on it. So they could do that. And then, as long as I would say that the student that's doing this is a principal. So for example, I think they could, potentially, in the business, and they're going to be maybe the CEO and the faculty member is going to stay at the university in their position. They could do the student competition if they wanted to do that. But they would have to, obviously be involved and committed. And the more important part is that they're committed to actually executing and starting that business, rather than that they're own the intellectual property. Did I say anything wrong, Marianne?
No, and based on your experience with judging this, no, I think you understand it better than I do.
Yeah, the professor in that case, and I don't watch much of the student competitions, but I do watch the business ones. That's the same as I've seen some PhD technical advisors, and the one trap you don't want to fall into is letting the professor or the PhD technical advisor start answering all the questions, because then the judges start to think that it's more of a scientific idea. Mel talked about this during his presentation. You really need to keep your presentation information flow focused on the student and whoever is going to run the business. When the technical aspects take over, it seems like a less viable business thing is what I've observed.
Gotcha.
And Scott, we've had examples in which the students, and there's been a number of students, and some have done very well that have gone in the open competition. So I mean, they can go up, but you can't go back down if you're not a student.
Sure. Cool. Thank you very much.
Does anybody else have any questions? I just have one more question. Eric got kicked off for a second, so we'll wait till he comes back. But is there any technical part of the application process that participants often overlook? Is there any specific one that you would really hammer home they should focus on and really take time to work on?
I'll touch on the technical part. I would say because the online application itself has fields set up that are required, that's usually fairly well complete. This is just maybe a personal thing from me. Be clear about the name of your business. Sometimes folks get a little bit too clever and it's a name, or if it's appropriate, certainly include a doing business as, but the name on your application should match the name on your business plan. Otherwise, it can be a bit confusing.
Sounds like something I do.
Yes, it does. I see a question in chat asking if she can present the same idea that was presented in the student competition last year, but they won 4th place. Can they then go on to present in the or to apply in the business competition? And Mel, you may be able to read that. No, I think it's a private one. Yes, that would be appropriate.
Yeah, because you can compete twice or up to I think 3 times. But yeah, and I would guess that very likely the business has matured and grown, and you're going to have a much stronger application than a year ago. So yeah, I would encourage you to give it a shot.
I have one more question, and then we'll probably move on to past winners and participants, that section. But somebody is asking, how do you participate as a judge? If there's any requirement for that, if there's a process for that, how do you go about that?
You would want to notify myself or David at the South Dakota Chamber, and we'll take that information onto the committee, and that's where the decision would be made.
Each competition has a chair that's been in that, been responsible for bringing judges, guiding the process. And so anyone who's interested, bless you, but we will forward that name to those two chairs, and we'll talk about the whole panel and balance the various needs.
This is related, but not judging, but related to that. Each of the competitions, we have volunteers who, and sometimes they're with the Small Business Development Center, other groups that sit in and they listen to the presentation and the comments, and then they will provide feedback to the participants in terms of, what was good, bad, and so forth. So they get some written feedback, and that's another way that you can, be involved, not necessarily as a judge, but as a, reporter, I guess it would be called, or something like that. But again, contact Mary Ann or David if you're interested in that.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to Eric now.
All right, thank you, Mel, David, and Marianne. That was really great. Really appreciate you telling us about the history, the process, and the judging criteria for the competition. If any of our audience members would like to get in touch with any of them or learn how DRACO can help, or any other business mentors in the state, reach out to Manal Ali. I'll have her put her contact information in the chat. She's DRACO's Director of Communications. We'll take a short, 3 to 5 minute break. Then we'll be back with previous Governor's Giant Vision winners. One of our participants in the next panel is a student, and he's finishing up class. We're going to want to give him a couple minutes to get settled. But we'll be back in a couple minutes with Henry Wigahopt, Justin Schroeder, and Miriam Amua. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. So for this second hour, we'll hear from 3 past participants. We'll kind of let them tell you about themselves, a little history of their project, what they've been up to since competing in the Governor's Giant Vision, some tips, best practices, things like that. So I'll hand it over to Henry Wigahopt, who was mentioned in the last hour for his technology and his company, ProVendor Technologies. So Henry, I'll let you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I'm excited for what all that DRACO has done to put this together, and I think it's really great. And thanks for coming on and talking. Mel, you guys have been around it. I think I remember all of you from the time that I went through in 2017. But since then, a lot of great things have happened for me, and it really all started with the Governor's Giant Vision. So I'll just talk a little bit about my company, what I've done since competing as a student, kind of where I'm at right now, and then just some thoughts on the competition itself. And just to start with, somebody asked the question, what are the measurable results, or what are some of the success stories that we've seen from Giant Vision? I think there's probably a lot of measurable results, and especially for me as a student, I can tell you that definitely changed my career trajectory. I met a lot of people I wouldn't have met. The competition itself forces you to, be outgoing. It forces you to be resourceful, to talk to people that you would have never connected with. And then, a lot of things don't have a direct impact that you can see, but, for example, RC, or David Groneveld, he won the competition, and just because he won the competition doesn't mean that he was able to get additional federal funding, but there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that he's been able to get, in government funding to support his company and support his vision for helping farmers here in South Dakota and throughout the nation as well. So just lots of unmeasurable results. And I think, we need to spend more time and resources, here in South Dakota supporting young entrepreneurs and anybody that's looking to build a business. So just a quick timeline or a quick story of how it's worked for me so far. I was a student out at South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. I was working on a senior design project, and I just happened to notice that the School of Mines had the CEO competition going on. And that was just, the School of Mines business plan competition. I know that USD, SDSU, they all have their own competitions, but School of Mines does a great job of, running a CEO competition, connecting you with mentors, helping you put together your business plan, providing those resources, helping students practice their pitches. So I went through all of that, and then I ended up winning, a couple of prizes at the School of Mines competition. And that was really where it started for me. Then I realized, this was a lot of fun. I'm enjoying this way more than I'm enjoying my classwork. So that was really the focus for the last semester of my, 4-year journey out at School of Mines. I just focused on entrepreneurship and building a business or investigating, what it might look like to start a business. So I, entered into the Governor's Giant Vision student competition. I was selected as a finalist. So then I got to compete, in the competition, ended up tying with Ellen. I don't remember her last name, but she had the calving book app, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a great experience. I got to meet a lot of people that I wouldn't have otherwise met. And then, reality hits. I'm a broke college student, so I ended up going to work for about 2.5 years. But, that entrepreneurship journey that I went down, in college, that kind of stuck with me. And it was just a lot of fun, and I really wanted to get back to it. So after working for about 2.5 years, I decided, I'd like to get back to that. I think there's an opportunity. And what I was working on was automation for farms, and specifically for feeding cattle. There's very few farms here in the United States that have automated cattle feeding. We've got lots of automation for the milking and the dairy industry, but your average family farm does not have much for automation. And feeding cattle is just a recurring, repetitive chore, and it ties somebody to the farm. So I've just seen too many farmers, stuck doing the same thing day in and day out, when their time would be much better spent focusing on their managerial role or marketing or whatever it might be, spending time with family. It can be anything. So I quit my job. I applied for an SBIR grant, and I got a lot of help from somebody that was very special, and somebody that I met because I had competed in the School of Mines CEO competition. But she actually helped me, prepare my grant. I submitted it in October of 2019. And then I actually found out that I was awarded that $100,000 from the USDA here in June. So my project started in September, but now all of a sudden I have $100,000 to work with, a great project budget, and I've got a runway, that I can essentially try and build a business. So coming up here in February of 2021, I'll apply for another $650,000 to continue to grow my business and provide, automation solutions for family farms here in South Dakota and throughout the Midwest and the United States in general. So yeah, I guess all of that really started with the Governor's Giant Vision competition, and the School of Mines competition, really sparked all of that. So for me, that changed my career trajectory. It led me down a path that I wouldn't have otherwise found maybe ever. My parents aren't entrepreneurial. I don't have an entrepreneurial family outside of that. It's something I had never considered growing up. But, the last 1.5 years has probably been the most rewarding and exciting, that I've out of any of the years of my life. I think the entrepreneurship space is one of the most exciting. The people there are the doers. They're trying to make something happen, whether it's something innovative or simply just, opening a restaurant or some other franchise. They're people that are trying to make things happen, and usually it's for the good of the community. It's not about them, it's not about themselves, it's about providing a solution that is going to make life better for somebody else. So I guess advice for students, speaking from personal experience, I looked at that business plan competition, and you've got all the criteria, this is what you have to do. And I just started putting together a business plan. I never did go out and talk to customers. I knew, from my background, this is probably what farmers want, but life gets so much easier and business gets so much easier when you actually just go out and talk to farmers, or in my case, it was farmers, but whoever your customer might be, go out, talk to them, ask them, what is your problem? What happens if you don't solve that problem? What would be the magic solution? How much would you pay for that? And it'll be pretty easy and pretty clear, to come up with, okay, this is the solution that they want. How am I going to provide that solution for them? And then you can write a business plan much easier than just trying to come up with that off the top of your head. So go out, talk to people, figure out, what their problem is, how you're going to solve that for them. And really, it's just a lot of fun. I encourage everybody to participate, get involved at the university level, compete in your, local business plan competition, but then for sure go on and compete in that Governor's Giant Vision competition. And who knows where that might take you. So I guess that's probably everything I have to add. I could talk for hours, on the different things that have come about because of, this journey that I started with the business plan competitions. But yeah, overall, it's been the best, opportunity and experience that I've come across. So thanks again, Eric.
Yeah. Thanks, Henry. I really think that your story is pretty inspirational because you noticed a challenge that affected your family personally. And do you think that was kind of what started you on this journey, is noticing how this could help you and your family and other farms that you're aware of as you're getting started?
Right. Absolutely. It's about identifying a problem and then trying to find a solution. And it can be anything. And I think that's what we need to encourage our youth, whether it's elementary school or high school or college students, start getting in that mindset. If you see a problem, okay, be able to identify that and what might be the solution. And that's where things get exciting, right? It's a lot more fun to be working on something that you're passionate about, or you're trying to, make something happen. And for me, that's exactly what it was. I recognize the need for farmers. They're tied to the farm. It's a recurring chore. There isn't, a cost-effective solution that's out there. And what can I do to make that, a reality for farmers? How can I make their lives easier? So for me, it was simply, I know that's a problem. What can I do to solve it? And that's probably one of the most difficult businesses to pursue. I'm finding there's a reason why there isn't solutions out there. It's a problem. You have to provide equipment. You have to, it's going to be tough to grow and scale, but it's something that farmers need. And working directly with farmers and making the progress that we have so far, we're coming to find, yeah, absolutely, this is something that farmers want. We just have to be able to provide it at a price that makes sense for them.
Yeah. So one more quick question for you before we move on to Miriam. You traveled up to Fargo, North Dakota to participate in the Co-Starters program, which is a national organization founded out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they have facilitators all across the country. With DRACO, Jevin Meyerink, Ty Vong, and myself all became Co-Starters facilitators in October, and we're going to be working with Zeal and potentially other groups around the state to deliver that content. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Co-Starters program affected, the trajectory of your company?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Yeah, it's really been a journey. I've done so much for the last couple, months, but it's been a year and a half, up in Fargo, here in Sioux Falls, back home on the farm, talking to customers across the state. But it's Co-Starters was a big thing for me. I was looking for what is something that I can do. I'd quit my job. I was looking for something, in January through, March, April, and Co-Starters was a business development class, or accelerator up in Fargo. And essentially it was a 9-week program. Each week you would focus on something different, whether it was customer discovery or, managing your financials, marketing. It was anything. And each week, was a 3-hour session. You'd have a guest speaker, usually a successful business person from the community. And then you'd have your tight-knit class that you would essentially go through the coursework with, and you'd have some great discussions. So it was really just sitting down with like-minded people and, talking about what your business might look like or what are the next steps, to make that a success. And that was a great learning experience. And to be honest, that changed my mindset. Before going through that program, I didn't have any business, courses that I had gone through, but going through that, I really learned, it's all about the customer and the product, and that should be the focus for me. And that's changed my business, to be honest. So it was a great experience. If you guys are going to do something with Co-Starters, everybody should be looking into that too.
Yeah. Thanks, Henry. We're really looking forward to delivering that content and putting together cohorts of like-minded people and really just enjoy that ideation phase all the way through commercialization phase. So we're looking forward to that as well. So thanks, Henry. We'll have you hang on, see if there's any questions at the end, but we'll transition over to Miriam Amuamua for her to tell her story. So Miriam, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Mariam Amwamuha. I'm a PhD student of chemical and biological engineering at ST Mines. And I started the same path like Henry did. I competed in the last year's CEO business plan. And then I won a couple of prizes over there. And then I go and competed in Giant Vision. And I also competed in I2I. And with all of those, I had the opportunity to receive a funding from SDBOR, a research and commercialization funding, which is helping us to commercialize our product while doing research on it and optimizing it. I also have the opportunity to meet a private investor in CEO business plan competition. He offered me the funding for building an MVP for my product. And after that, I started to build the MVP, and now I just finished it up and it's running now. It's in operation, and I'm so excited about that because after this, we have the chance with that funding from SDBOR and with the investment that the private party is willing to do in this product, we will have the chance to develop all of the aspects of the product we have. And after that, probably we are going to start our business, and we are establishing our company now. I have some issues because I'm not a permanent resident of the United States, but I'm really amazed by all of this opportunity in the United States. And now I'm competing in Lemelson, a student prize of MIT, and I've been down selected for that. I hope that I can be one of the finalists and go and get that prize because it's really important for the invention part, which is one of the aspects of our product. About the Giant Vision, I really recommend this competition to every student because it's a unique opportunity to go and compete in that kind of competition. And it gave me the opportunity to meet experienced people and also to receive mentorship from them. Due to COVID, we didn't have the chance to meet with those people in person, but I had the chance to make my connections with those persons, and I really appreciate that. It helped me to grow and improve my business and to build up those connections, which is really it's irreplaceable opportunity to have that, and for me to gain experience in preparing business plan, which was the first time what I did in CEO competition. It was really new for me, but I did it. I received a lot of support from the ST Mines team, from Joseph and his team, and from the mentors they are assigning. He helped us a lot with the presentation and everything. So I think it somehow helped me to get through all of those stages, and now I'm prepared to start the business, which is really exciting. As a PhD student, it's really new and it's really a unique chance for us, because it's not easy to get these opportunities. And I appreciate all of the support from the Giant Vision, CEO, and other competitions, that they support the idea and they support those to become out of the papers and just become business. So yeah, and I think what would I add to my business plan will be the focus on the impact of my business on the South Dakota. Now I know that, but last year when I competing, I didn't focus on that enough. So I recommend that to consider that. How will you directly and indirectly have any impact on SD South Dakota economy? And I would like to thank everybody to listen to my talk, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. So it sounds like you've participated in quite a few competitions: the I2I competition, CEO competition, Governance Giant Vision, and now this MIT competition.
Yeah.
Do you feel that every time you've gone through these competitions, you've received feedback on your business plan that helped you kind of reiterate and improve your business?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that's what like we didn't have that much chance that we had in CEO, because it wasn't online or virtual, but from Giant Vision, from the comments that I received from the judges, like to be careful with the name of the business and with marketing, how to impact the South Dakota state. And with those comments I got from I2I, then it made me confident to go and compete in MIT, which is a bigger competition. And I think, yeah, it helped me to get that funding from SDBOR, the commercialization funding. So I think, yeah, it's really helpful to compete in all of those, and it helps me to improve the business plan and improve the idea that I have.
Were there any specific comments that helped you more than others in maybe certain aspects of your business?
Oh, I think how to market it, it was really helpful. And because, and that milestones, it was really helpful. Those comments that I received in those areas, yeah, I think those.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll ask you to hold off here for a little bit. It looks like we have a few questions coming in that are more general questions, so I'll pose those to the three of you after we give Justin a chance to tell us a little bit about himself, his journey through the Governor Giant Vision competition, and a little bit about his company. Justin, I'll hand it off to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Justin. I'm currently a junior at Mines. And I also started with the CEO competition like Henry and Miriam. And I think that really helped me kind of leapfrog towards the Governor's Giant Vision competition. I started my idea as a freshman, and I'll be honest, it kind of sucked when I first put it into the CEO competition. I didn't place at all, but I did get a lot of feedback from all the judges and then also from a lot of mentors. I made a couple big no-nos in my actual presentation. I talked about having a big percentage of the total population of my market size. And so I ended up changing that, fixed that. I tried for the I2I business plan competition, didn't make it into there. And then when I finally applied for the Governor's Giant Vision competition, I made it into that. So it was kind of nice to see the progress I made with all of the input from mentors and judges. and they really helped me build my idea. And currently, I'm just working on making prototypes. That's kind of what my current mentors are telling me is just build a prototype. Doesn't matter what it looks like. So that's kind of what I've been doing. So I currently have just like a toaster oven and a panini press, and I'm just melting plastic because that's what my business is kind of focused around, is recycled plastic. So I've only spent probably $100 total on those, but it's just to make a simple little prototype that will help me in my further business endeavors, I guess.
All right, Justin, can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on? What are you melting the plastic for?
So my business is, or my business idea, I haven't made a business yet, that's my plan, is anti-air skateboards. And so the focus is to make skateboards out of recycled plastic. That's pretty much my idea. So what I've been working on is just melting recycled HDPE pellets into just big sheets of plastic. And eventually, hopefully with enough funding, I am able to make either just a big plastic injection molding machine or a big sheet press machine that just presses out large sheets of recycled plastic boards.
And you mentioned going through the CEO competition, the I2I, and the Governance Giant Vision, and having feedback and mentors along the way. Can you share with us an experience with a mentor that shaped your business idea or how you approached your business plan?
Yeah, so probably my biggest mentor, or the mentor that had the most impact on my business idea, was William Trevilian, who has been successful in these competitions and is currently trying to start his own startup business. But he kind of shifted my focus on how I should present my business, and to kind of include like asks for money, like what are you asking them for the money for? Like, where is it going to go? And things like that. Other mentors included Joseph Wright. He helped out quite a bit too, as well as Darren Haar. They in the start were kind of like, your business sucks. Like, here's what you should change. And they were absolutely right. Like, there were a lot of spots and holes in my plan, and they kind of helped me fill those holes, I guess.
Yeah, thanks. So we have a couple questions that are a little more general. Catherine, do you want to ask your question? I don't know if you had someone in mind or if we just want to pose it to the group.
You can pose it to the group. That's perfectly fine. It occurred to me that that was maybe a good question to ask when the first presenter was on. Thank you.
All right, so Catherine is wondering from you three, what made you want to enter the competition in the first place? Was it starting your business, potential prize money to fund certain aspects of your business, or was there a possibility to broaden your network or make certain connections that you were looking for? So whoever wants to start, go ahead.
I can jump in here. Man, I read that comment in the chat there, and I was trying to think back what did make me want to enter that competition. And I think I just saw the flyer on campus and I thought, man, that'd be a fun opportunity. But having, gone through the competitions, man, I wish I would have met more entrepreneurs early on. That was just something that I wasn't involved in. It didn't click for me, and I never saw the opportunity until I went through the competitions and then started meeting other business owners. And then it just became really exciting and really real. Those people get to operate in a different way, and seeing them work on something that they're really passionate about and focus on that full time, that was just something that I just really wanted to be able to do as well. And it was exciting. I wish I would have met more entrepreneurs sooner. I think if I would have gone to more keynotes or participated in 1 million cups or any of that, I would have been a lot further ahead, sooner. I didn't see that until my senior year, really.
The reason I had gone into the competition was also because I had seen flyers, but the biggest thing on the flyer was the prize money. I saw 3,000, and as a freshman, I was like, oh, wow, 3,000, like that's a lot of money. So obviously I was interested in the money. But then when I started kind of like researching my idea and delving into more of like the market and just kind of looking at all the numbers, kind of saw like, wow, this like might actually be possible. And that's when I kind of really got into it. And I just kept going with it and continued applying for all the different competitions.
Miriam, was there a driving factor or primary reason you entered your first competition?
Oh, I think the most important thing for me just to bring my idea to the market, because I was working on this idea for about 5 years, and I was working on that, but I didn't know how to make it real, how to bring it to the market. So when I was seeing that flyer, I was so excited that I can get the mentorship I need, and I can have the connections I need to bring this idea and bring it from the lab and put it in the market, which was the right thing to do, because now it seems to me that I'm in the right direction to do that. And I hope that I can do it, because, to me, the invention is like, so it's something that I spend a lot of time on it. And I wanted to be on the market and people see that people are using it. So for me, it was the possibility of connections and marketing of the product, if it's possible. Yeah, I think that was the driving force for me.
All right, so we have another question for the whole panel. Were there any skills that you gained through the competition process that you felt helped you kind of in your overall life, whether you went and got a job before you started your company, or, general skills that you learned through the competition process that have helped you generally?
I can go ahead and start again. I think for me, it was just, the competition and going through the business plan competitions, they just forced me to be resourceful and start connecting with people that I normally wouldn't have connected with. I mean, I'm an engineer at heart, I'm quiet. I'm more of a doer, not much of a talker. And the business plan competition really changed that for me. And then going forward, as you do that more and more, you start to realize, man, this is a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting that help, talking with that person. And then, I'm even in the position now where, I've applied for the grants, had some success there, get to do a lot of different stuff. I'm in a business plan or business accelerator up in Fargo right now. And that's just a unique experience of working with, corporate partners and doing all kinds of crazy things that I would have never done before, but it's fun helping others. And I can't wait for that day, when it's me providing that advice and working with other people to try and make their, opportunities come to life. So the connections are huge, forced me to be more outgoing and talk to more people that I normally wouldn't have.
So one thing that I'm seeing that the three of you have in common is that when you talk about your idea, there's a lot of passion there. What do you think maybe set you apart from the other competitors in your year? Because Henry, you placed first, and Miriam, you placed first. Justin, you're still developing your idea. You placed third your year, I believe. So do you think it's the passion that you have for your idea that set you apart, or any other specifics that you can think of?
The only thing that I really think set me apart was maybe like the research that I put into it, because I think a lot of these people who like continue to the Governor's Giant Vision competition are passionate about their idea. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't try pursuing it still. So I don't think my passion really set me apart. It was more maybe like my idea had something fantastical about it, or something different from what's out there already.
All right, thanks, Justin. So I have a couple more questions, but I'll leave it up to the rest of the audience. If anyone else has any questions, I encourage you to take advantage of these three that we have in our panel right now.
John asked the question, what is one thing you wished you would have known or done differently when you first went into the competition? I think I mentioned that earlier, but man, I just opened up the requirements for the business plan competition, on the South Dakota Governor's Giant Vision website, and I just started working on my business plan. I had my idea, but I had never actually gone out and talked to farmers or, tried to ask them, what do you actually want? What should my product be? What's going to be, most helpful for you? And that's actually how I continued to know. I just did everything on my own. I never went out and talked to people. But if I could do it all over, I would absolutely just go out and start talking to people who I think might be potential customers, and they're going to direct you right to the solution that they want. And it would be so much it'd be so much easier, to put together a business plan. And I've, revised mine since several times over, and it just gets easier and easier, once you start talking to customers and, really planning for a business and not just your idea. Let them tell you what they want, and you can put together your plan of how you're going to give that to them.
Miriam or Justin, do you have one thing that you would have done differently in the competition, knowing now what you know?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing I would have done was researched more of my market. A lot of the feedback I got from the Governor's Giant Vision was that my market, or that was kind of lacking. So I would have made sure to kind of work more on that and how I was going to bring my product to the market.
As I told, probably I would work more on the direct and indirect impact on the economy of the state. And I would also work more on the job that this product, this business is going to create for the people. I would do more effort. I would put more effort on that area, I think.
So it kind of sounds like, asking questions to customers and getting their feedback early is really important to all three of you. You can kind of consider them a panel of judges on their own, because they're going to provide you with valuable information on what they want from a product, and that's how you can decide if it's a good market fit. So yes, thank you for that. Ryan asks, what came first for you three? The idea that you're building the business around, or that you had the desire to own a business? So the idea, or did you have that entrepreneurial spirit that just caused you to want to go out and start a business, and then the idea came after?
For me, I just wanted to solve a problem. I wanted to help farmers, wanted to give them their time back, make their chores easier. So it was just, how can I actually do that and make an impact? But, after going through the co-starters program and, having the experience that I've gained now, I think entrepreneurship is a game. It's fun. You can choose almost anybody, start talking to them, and ask them what their problem is, and, try and come up with a solution for them. And you don't have to have that idea, let people tell you what their problem is. And then if you think you can solve that problem, there you go, you have your idea. So I think it always needs to be a problem that you're addressing, and then, work towards that, whatever your mechanism is going to be. But then once you're in that mindset, it's fun. I can't imagine, or I wouldn't want to be doing anything else right now, being business owner or an entrepreneur is just a lot of fun.
I would say it was kind of a mixture of both for me. I mean, throughout like middle school and high school, I've always liked business. In high school I sold laser pointers to people in class, and so there was always like the entrepreneurial spirit in the back of my mind, like, oh well, if an idea comes along, like I'll try and pursue that. And so just like watching YouTube videos and stuff, I got inspiration. I was like, wow, that, like I could build a business, and then I kind of like shifted to that idea. I was like, well, this idea has potential, and I'm excited for it.
So on the call, we have representatives from several universities and several private organizations such as DRACO and Sharp Hub that work closely with universities. And all three of you come from the School of Mines, and the School of Mines has a pretty robust process with the CEO competition, and engineers make great entrepreneurs. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you went through, the strengths of the programs that are available at the School of Mines that other universities or organizations might be able to emulate?
I think what is unique about SD Mines is their provision of, like, they're providing a good mentorship, and they are walking you through the process. Like from the first session that you go and they have this introduction session, they will support you to receive enough mentorship, to have enough marketing plan, and to get all of those steps in the business plan in right direction. And I think that's what is really unique about what they are doing, because they are doing it for several years now. So I think that they are doing a great job with the process. And the most important part is the support that they are providing, even before the presentation, before the final pitch. They will support the students to go and pitch for them. I think that's what is unique and what helped me a lot for being prepared for all of that competition and for all of the other competition that I took part in. I think that was the helpful aspect of CEO competition and what SD Mines doing with their business plan program.
Henry, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think pairing students up with, mentors and just making those resources available to them, that's huge. Obviously, for a lot of students, they have no idea where to even start. They might have their idea, but most people haven't written a business plan before as a student. So it's just a whole new concept, and it can be intimidating. So I think it's just important to have those resources on hand, or let them know this is who you can go to and get help from.
Yeah, so it sounds like having that clear pathway laid out, milestones and mentors really help the three of you, take it from idea to that final pitch. So yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing, and that's what we've heard, from the DRACO perspective from other students that have participated in competitions. It's just a really great way to start, and I think it's a great way to answer the question. Leave it open for any other questions to come in. While people are thinking of last minute questions, I would ask you three to maybe provide one piece of advice, overarching advice for students that have never participated in a competition, to get them started if they're looking to submit an application in February 2021.
I would say, even if you don't feel like you have the time, I guarantee you that going through the business plan competition is something that you won't regret. Maybe entrepreneurship isn't for you. You'll probably figure that out soon enough, but if you don't do it now as a student, I don't know a better time to do it. Once you start working, trust me, you don't feel like you have time for that. Once you have other priorities, I mean, you don't realize how much time you have as a student until you're actually in that situation. And after the fact, it's just, man, I wish I would have done this or that, looking back. So just take the time, do it, go through the process, try and meet as many people as you can, and take advantage of that opportunity, because you never know where it might lead you.
I would also say, like, even if you're not sure you want to be an entrepreneur, just learning the process behind it can be beneficial to like your career long term. Like learning all of the financial information behind starting a business, like you'll know what your boss is going through. Like maybe you could help them out, and then you get a promotion because you know so much because you're smart or something. I don't know. I think that would be beneficial even if your idea itself doesn't necessarily perform as well as you think it is, or if you just decide pursuing entrepreneurship isn't for you.
All right, Miriam, any last minute advice for the audience on the call today?
I think go and present your idea, because you don't know what you are going to get from that. And you will receive mentorship, which is really important. And you have the opportunity to talk to people, to talk to those experienced business people, which is really valuable. So even if you don't get anything from that prizes, you will have the chance to meet all those mentorship, and you will have the chance to meet all of those people. So just go and try it. It will be really helpful to make a business and something like that.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. Just get out and talk to people, share your idea. You'll get feedback. Most people want to help other people. I wouldn't be too worried about, if you're just talking about it on a high level, no one's going to try to steal your idea. It is something to be aware of, how much information you present. But I think just talking to people and asking for feedback is a great place to start. So we have one last question here. So the three of you competed in the student competition. What would you say the major difference is between the student competition and the open competition, if you have any advice on that?
For me, I would say that the student competition is more of a concept, where the open one is more of like if your idea is more developed or something, and maybe like the following year you're actually going to start it. That's what I would think, and that's kind of what I believed when I was going into the competition, was like, well, this is just a concept right now. Maybe I'll get some validation and then be able to go into the open next year or something.
Yeah, I would say that that's what I would think too, that the student competition is kind of a realm where people can just try something out. It's not to say that there aren't high caliber ideas there, but the open competition might have, more well thought out business plans. They've had more time perhaps to speak with customers and to vet their idea. Looks like we have a question from Shay. Do any of you have advice about someone who's maybe not good at presenting or speaking to people, but really believes in their business idea? So the passion is there, but they might not have as much experience presenting.
I think we all know that business is a team, and that's something that I've struggled with in the past. It's just tough to get people to jump on board and commit a lot of time to something that, hasn't been proven in a sense. So it might be something that you're really passionate about, but you're not able to convince somebody else to, devote all their time, or maybe you don't want to give up part of your company for that reason too. But if it is something that you're passionate about and you have a great idea, you might be able to get somebody to join your team and let them handle the, the public facing, side of the business, and you can work on the idea. I think business should be a team. I can't wait to build my team and, bring people on board. That's something that I'm working towards. but yeah, start building your team, get somebody else involved.
All right, that's
I would say,
really great advice. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. I would say just practicing as well. Like for me, I absolutely hate presenting. I get nervous. Just even being on this call and giving my minimal advice is nerve-wracking a little bit. But like for me, even in the shower, it's just like, well, okay, this is my first slide in my presentation. I just kind of go through it throughout the day. Because the more you know your stuff, the more confident you're going to be. And if you're enthusiastic about your idea, that's going to show through. No matter if you're nervous or not, the judges will see that. And that's, I think, really what's important about like the presentation is they want to see somebody who's passionate about their idea, not somebody who's like, here's an idea, may work, may not, because they don't want to invest in somebody that is like half-heartedly going after their idea.
Yeah, more practice is always better. You know, the more you practice, the more confident you feel. That's kind of the approach that I take as well. So yeah, thanks for that advice, Justin. We're about out of time here today, so I'd like to thank everyone for attending again. If anyone has any follow-up questions, want to get in touch with any of our presenters today, please contact anyone at DRACO. Information on our website, draco.bio. For those looking to participate in the competition or build other skills that might prepare you, DRACO has a number of workshops coming up to build skills in communication, team building, leadership skills, and we'll be running a co-starters cohort in the spring. So we'll be sending out more information, how to sign up for that. So continue building networks and contact DRACO if you have any questions about anything that was presented here today. And we look forward to additional Catalyst series information sessions on other competitions and other ways to build skills for entrepreneurs and innovators around South Dakota. So with that, I'll sign off and hope to see everyone soon. Thank you.